a sort of careful watchfulness, as though he was not sure what I was yet, as though he was deciding. One evening, about 3 weeks after I arrived, I was washing the supper dishes and I began to cry. I'd been holding it since the wagon ride, and something about the particular light on the wall, the way the lamp threw shadows, reminded me of the light in our cabin at home, and I could not hold it any more. I cried as quietly as I could, with my back to the room, thinking no one would notice. Daniel noticed. He came and stood beside me, not touching, just present, and after a moment he said, "Do you miss your mama?" "Yes," I said, though even as I said it I was not sure that was quite accurate. I missed home. I missed my father's stories and my brother's company and the familiar walls of the cabin. Whether I missed my mother, the woman who had stood in the yard and accepted a bag of flour, was a more complicated question. "I miss mine too," Daniel said. We stood there a moment in silence, two small people in a large cold kitchen, missing things we couldn't get back. It was the closest thing to kindness I experienced in the first year on the Pruitt farm. My mother had said she would come to see me. She did not come. 6 months passed, and then a year, and she did not come. The road was rough, it was true. 11 miles in the mountains in winter is not a short journey. She had no horse. She had Clarence to look after. These were the things I told myself, lying in my loft bed at the Pruitt farm, listening to the sounds of the house at night. In the spring of my second year, a letter came. I cannot read it to you now because it is gone. I do not know where it went in all my years of moving and changing. But I remember every word of it, because I read it so many times it became part of me. She wrote that she hoped I was well. She wrote that Clarence had grown considerably. She wrote that she had made arrangements with a neighbor family, the Holcombs, and that things were more settled now. She wrote that she thought of me. She did not write, "I am sorry." She did not write, "I should not have done what I did." She did not write, "I am coming to bring you home." She wrote that she thought of me, as though thinking of someone is the same as caring for them, as though thought unaccompanied by action is a form of love. I sat with that letter for a long time in the corner of the Pruitt kitchen, while the stew I was making bubbled on the stove. I was 8 years old and I was deciding something. I was deciding that I was alone. Not in the self-pitying way, not in the way that paralyzes you, in the practical way, in the way that says, no one is coming, no one is going to rescue you from this. If your life is going to be anything other than what it is right now, you are the one who will have to make that happen. I do not know if most 8-year-olds are capable of making this decision consciously. I think most children are protected from such clarity for longer than I was. But I had been sold for a bag of flour, and the woman who sold me had just written to say she thought of me. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my dress pocket, and I went back to stirring the stew. I lived on the Pruitt farm for 9 years. 9 years, from the age of 7 to the age of 16. 9 years of starting fires before dawn, of hauling water, of scrubbing and mending and cooking and cleaning. 9 years of being girl to Josiah Pruitt and his sons. 9 years of not being seen. But they were also 9 years in which I became, in ways I did not fully recognize at the time, someone. There was a schoolhouse 3 miles from the Pruitt farm, and in my second winter there, when the farm work slowed, Pruitt permitted me to attend for 2 months. It was, I think, not out of any concern for my education, but because he wanted to maintain the appearance of respectability, an appearance that included not being seen as the man who kept a girl child ignorant. Whatever his reasons, I was grateful. The school teacher was a young woman named Miss Addie Forrest, recently arrived from Knoxville. with more learning than was common in those hills and a genuine belief that children deserved to understand the world they lived in. She recognized quickly that I was hungry for what she had to offer, and she treated that hunger with the respect it deserved. I learned to read that winter, not just the simple, labored sounding out of letters, but real reading, reading that carried you somewhere, that opened doors in your mind that you hadn't known were there. Miss Forrest lent me books, which I read by firelight after everyone else was asleep, holding them close to the lamp so I could make out the words. Reading changed everything, though it did not change my circumstances. I was still girl. I was still hauling water and scrubbing laundry. But inside my head, I was somewhere else. I was in the places I read about. I was meeting people who had lived lives entirely unlike the one I had been assigned.